I didn't mean to spill coffee on his $1,000 suit. I didn't know who he was. But the way he stared at me, like I was just a speck on his perfect world, it made my chest tighten. I thought he'd destroy me. But then, something unexpected happened. Before I tell you how this one moment changed everything in my life, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you don't miss more real heart-tugging love stories. Now, let me take you back to the day it all began. I was running late again. Story of my life. The kind of late where you're juggling coffee in one hand, phone in the other, praying the universe cuts you a break. I wasn't even fully paying attention, just weaving through the crowd, trying to type a quick text to my boss about the traffic that wasn't even real. Then it happened. I bumped into someone, hard. My coffee cup flew out of my hand like it had wings, landed straight on a perfectly tailored navy blue suit. I gasped, too stunned to speak. My eyes followed the spill upward, tracing the drip of caramel mocha climbing up what I now realized was designer fabric. And then I saw his face, sharp jaw, cold gray eyes that narrowed like they could freeze time. He didn't say a word, just looked at me. But that look, it cut deep, not angry, not surprised, just cold, like I was invisible and in his way. People around us actually stopped. Like a scene from a movie, the air felt thick and still. And me? I stood there, frozen, cheeks burning, heart racing. I had no idea who he was, but from the way people stared, I had just messed up. Bad. I didn't sleep much that night, kept replaying it over and over in my head. The spill, the stare, the silence. I didn't even get his name, but that look, like I wasn't even worth yelling at, kept haunting me. I figured he was some big shot executive, maybe a client of the firm I worked at, but I didn't expect what came next. The next morning, I walked into the office hoping no one had noticed. Maybe, just maybe, the whole thing had blown over. But then I heard my name. Amara, boss wants to see you. Now. My stomach dropped. I walked into her office, and she was already shaking her head. Do you know who that was? She asked. Jordan Chase. The Jordan Chase. I blinked. I didn't recognize the name at first. Then she said it. Billionaire, tech genius, CEO of Chase Dynamics. He owns the building. He was the investor we were trying to pitch. That's when it hit me like a truck. I had spilled coffee on the billionaire, who basically owned half the city, and ruined the meeting our entire firm had been preparing for. I'm sorry, I whispered, barely able to look her in the eye, but it didn't matter. You've embarrassed this company. We can't have that. Just like that, I was fired. No warnings, no second chances. I walked out of that office stunned, trying to keep the tears back. The worst part? I wasn't even mad at them. I was mad at myself for being careless, for not looking up, for not knowing. But deep down, a small part of me kept thinking about that man, Jordan Chase, that cold look, that silence. He hadn't said a word, but somehow it felt like he had made the call that ended my job. I told myself to forget it, to move on. Life wasn't fair, but fate, as I was about to learn, had something else in mind. Because Jordan Chase, he wasn't done with me yet. Losing that job hit harder than I thought it would. It wasn't just the paycheck, it was everything. My routine, my pride, the one place I felt like I was finally getting my life together. I spent the first 2 days in bed, flipping through job boards, pretending like I still had options. But every time I'd click on something, I'd hear my boss's voice again. You've embarrassed this company. I cried more than I cared to admit, and not just because I was jobless, but because of how it all happened. One small mistake, and everything fell apart. And worst of all, I felt powerless, like I was just a background character in someone else's story. Someone rich, someone untouchable, someone like Jordan Chase. I Googled him that night, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop thinking about that moment, that look. I needed to know who he really was. Turns out he wasn't just some billionaire. He was the billionaire, tech empire, Forbes covers, billionaire by 32nd private, mysterious, ruthless according to the tabloids. And here I was, some nobody who spilled coffee on his perfect image. A few days passed. I tried to stay busy, cleaning my apartment, applying to jobs I didn't want, telling my friends I was fine when I wasn't. Deep down, I kept thinking, I'll never see him again. That world isn't mine. But then, something strange happened. I got a call from an unknown number. At first, I didn't answer. I assumed it was another rejection. But it rang again and again. So I picked up. A calm, polite voice greeted me. Miss Amara James? Yes? Mr. Jordan Chase would like to meet with you. My heart dropped. I actually laughed for a second. Is this a joke? No, ma'am. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., Chase Tower, 48th floor. I hung up, stunned. Why would he want to see me? I didn't know what to expect, but I couldn't stay away. I didn't have a job. I didn't have answers, but I had curiosity and the kind of nervous energy that only comes when your life is about to shift in a direction you can't control. I had no idea what was waiting for me at that office, but I was about to find out. I didn't sleep that night. My brain kept spinning in circles. What did he want from me? Was this some kind of payback? A lawsuit? A lecture? I had no clue. But something about that call. It felt too calm to be revenge. Still, I was terrified. The next morning, I woke up early, way earlier than I needed to. I must have changed my outfit 5 times. I wasn't even trying to impress him. I just didn't want to look like someone who didn't belong. I settled on a simple navy blouse and black slacks. Safe, neat, forgettable. I walked into Chase Tower feeling like an imposter. Everything was glass and gold. Everyone was dressed in quiet power. I checked in at the front desk, and within minutes, a woman in a sharp suit appeared. Miss James, this way, please. My legs didn't feel like they were working properly, but somehow I followed her into the elevator. Up we went, past floor after floor of perfection, until we stopped at 48. The doors opened into silence. Polished marble floors, minimalist decor, and a breathtaking view of the city. She led me down a hallway and opened a massive glass door, and there he was, Jordan Chase, standing behind a sleek black desk, wearing another custom suit, calm and unreadable. Miss James, he said, motioning for me to sit. I did, though my legs almost gave out. He paused, then said something I never expected. I owe you an apology. I blinked. My brain didn't quite register the words. He continued, I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. You were just having a bad morning. I know what that feels like. I didn't know what to say. I think I mumbled something like, it's okay, though I wasn't sure it really was. Then came the real surprise. I'd like to offer you a job as my personal assistant. I froze. My first instinct? Say no. This felt too weird, too fast. Why me? But I needed a job, desperately. And something about him, his tone, his eyes, felt different now. Not soft, exactly, but not icy either. So I nodded, and just like that, I was working for the man who turned my life upside down. Only I had no idea how much more was still to come. That first official day felt like walking into a dream I didn't fully believe in. His office was nothing like I imagined. Sure, it was modern and spotless, but it wasn't cold. There were books, real ones, not just for show. A small photo frame sat on the corner of his desk, turned slightly away. I couldn't see the picture, and I didn't ask. Jordan Chase, he wasn't what I expected either. He didn't bark orders. He didn't glare. He just watched. observed, always calm, always 2 steps ahead. We barely spoke that first week. Most of my tasks were quiet ones: emails, scheduling, coffee runs. Yes, coffee. The irony didn't escape me. He kept our conversations short and professional. I told myself to stay focused, to treat it like any other job. But it wasn't like any other job. Not just because he was rich or powerful, but because I felt something shift every time we were in the same room. It wasn't attraction, not at first. It was something else. Curiosity, maybe? He was like a locked door I didn't want to open, but couldn't stop glancing at. Then, one afternoon, something happened. I was organizing files in his office. He was on a call. I could tell it wasn't going well. His voice was clipped, his tone sharp. When he hung up, he sighed, rubbed his temples, and for a moment, he just looked human. He noticed me watching and said, almost absent-mindedly, "People think being in control means never feeling anything." I didn't respond. I didn't know how to. He looked at me, more serious this time. "I've been unfair to you. That day, I judged you without knowing a thing about you. My heart started beating faster. I thought you were careless, but maybe I was the one who wasn't paying attention." It wasn't a grand apology, but it was real, honest. And in that small moment, something cracked. Not a big dramatic shift, just a little one, like the tiniest thaw in a long winter. I nodded, barely able to speak. "Thank you," I said softly. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away either. And for the first time since we met, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. Working for Jordan Chase wasn't glamorous like people imagine when they think billionaire assistant. There were no shopping sprees or private jets, at least not for me. It was emails, calendars, taking calls, handling emergencies. He was particular, punctual, quiet, but he never raised his voice, never made me feel small. Still, he kept his distance. I called it the glass wall. He was right there in front of me every day, but I couldn't reach him, couldn't really know him. Everything about him was neat and measured: his clothes, his words, his life, and I felt like a mess in comparison. But then, every now and then, the wall would crack, just a little, like the time I caught him feeding a stray dog outside the office building. Or when I noticed he always ordered 2 coffees but only drank one. I asked him about it once. He just said, "Habit." Another time, he had a photo of his mother on his desk, the same one I'd seen turned away on my first day. She passed away when he was young. I only found out when I overheard him on a call, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. There was pain there, real pain. I never asked about it, but I listened, watched, waited, and slowly something shifted. He started asking me how my day was, not just as a formality, but like he meant it. He remembered things: my favorite tea, the name of my little brother, the way I liked to organize his files. I started looking forward to our moments, even the quiet ones. But I reminded myself not to read into it. He was my boss, a billionaire. And me, I was just trying to keep my life together. But one night, as I was packing up to leave, he said something that stayed with me. "You're not like the others." I turned, unsure what he meant. "The people around me, they all want something. But you're just you." I didn't know what to say, so I smiled, and I left. But in the elevator, my heart was racing, because I knew something had started between us, something unspoken, something real. It was a Friday, and a storm had rolled in fast. Thick clouds, heavy rain, thunder shaking the glass windows of the office. Most of the staff had cleared out early, but I stayed behind, helping Jordan finalize a pitch for an international investor. The power flickered once, then again, and finally went out completely. Silence. Then the soft hum of the backup generator kicked in. Dim lights glowed through the office, and for the first time, the space didn't feel cold. It felt quiet, peaceful, almost warm. "I guess we're stuck here for a bit," he said. We sat at the table, papers and laptops forgotten, watching the rain slide down the windows like tiny rivers. He leaned back, looked at me, and for the first time, asked something personal. "What were you doing before all this?" I told him, about the job, about school, about how I'd been trying to build something for myself. Nothing special, just life. He nodded. "You remind me of her," he said softly. "Who?" I asked. "My mother. She didn't grow up with much, but she had this strength. Quiet, steady, like you." That moment hung in the air, heavy and beautiful. Then silence again. And in that silence, he reached over, just slightly, his fingers brushing mine. No words, no promises, just a touch. And in that touch, I felt it. The wall between us, it was finally falling. After that night, things changed. Not dramatically. He didn't start bringing me flowers or taking me on dates. But there was something different in the way he looked at me. Like he saw me, not just the assistant, not just the girl who spilled coffee, but me. One evening, a few days later, we stayed late again. The work was done, but neither of us had moved. The city outside was glowing, and the quiet inside felt safe. He broke the silence. "I haven't let anyone in for a long time." I didn't say anything. I just listened. My father was a hard man, cold, distant. I promised myself I'd never be like him, but sometimes I wonder if I already am. His voice cracked a little then. "My last relationship ended badly. She said I didn't know how to love. Maybe she was right." I looked at him, this man who seemed untouchable, unbreakable, and all I saw was someone deeply human, someone who had been hurt and built walls so tall, even he couldn't see over them anymore. "You're not him," I said quietly, "and you're not broken." He looked at me like he wanted to believe that, like a small part of him already did. In that moment, the cold in his eyes, the frost, the armor, the distance, it melted. Not all at once, but enough for something real to grow. It didn't happen like in the movies. No swelling music, no dramatic declarations, just silence. We were in his office late again, working, talking, sitting closer than we had any right to. He was reviewing a presentation, but his eyes kept flicking to me. And mine? Well, I couldn't stop watching him either. He closed the laptop, sat back, and said, "You're the only person who makes this place feel less empty." That did something to me, stirred something I'd been trying to ignore. I smiled. "You're not as cold as you pretend to be, you know." He looked at me, really looked at me, and there it was again. That shift, the flicker in his eyes, like he was deciding something. And then he leaned in, slow, careful, like he was giving me time to pull away. But I didn't. Our lips met gently, like a secret, not rushed, not hungry, just soft and full of meaning. It was a kiss that said, "I see you. I trust you. I need this, even if I don't know what it is yet." When we pulled back, neither of us spoke. We didn't have to. Everything had changed in that one quiet moment, and even though I didn't know where it was all going, I knew we'd crossed a line, and neither of us wanted to go back. Falling for him wasn't the hard part. Staying in love, that's where the world tried to break us. Once people found out, co-workers, media, even strangers online, everything got loud. Headlines popped up. Comments flooded in. "She's a gold digger." "He's having a midlife crisis." "She's only there because of what he has." They didn't know me. They didn't know us. And honestly, some days, I started to doubt myself too. But Jordan didn't. He stood beside me through it all. every insult, every whisper, every look. One morning I asked him, "Are you sure this is worth it?" He looked at me and said, "For the first time in a long time, I feel like a person, not just a name on a building. And that's because of you." We didn't have fairy tale answers. We still had hard days, awkward silences, moments when our worlds clashed. But we worked through it, together. We took things slow. No rushing, no labels. Just two people trying to heal in each other's presence. Somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing him as the billionaire, and he stopped seeing me as the girl who spilled coffee. We just saw each other, flawed, real, still learning, and somehow that was more than enough. And that's how one spilled coffee turned into the story of a lifetime. If you felt something while listening, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. You never know. Your story might begin on the worst day of your life, just like mine did. Love.